Question. What if your online presence is quietly disqualifying you from opportunities that are perfectly designed for you? Hi, and welcome to Good Talk with Tiffany Santana, where we have good talk with great people who help us live our best lives. On this episode, I'm sitting down with Kirk Nugent, media pastor, former NASA and T. Rowe Price IT pro, and affectionately known as the Geek Speaker Preacher. Kirk helps high impact professionals go from inaccessible and unknown to omnipresent and highly compensated with an A-list digital footprint. In this episode, we unpack why he says God is the ultimate content creator, why content equals opportunity, and how entrepreneurs and professionals can stop leasing their impact to social platforms and start owning their digital footprint. You'll walk away with practical tips to clean up your online presence, the mindset shift to finally get on camera, and a clear picture of how your content can serve the people to whom you are called. Stay to the end to hear Kirk's digital footprint manifesto and to see if you're an A-lister. Don't forget to download this episode's Good Talk Takeaway Guide. Let's get into it. Kirk Nugent, welcome. Thank you so much for
Yes.
joining me at Good Talk with
I'm
Tiffany
excited to be
Santana.
here.
So excited to have you. This conversation is going to be great. I want to ask you
I'm looking
first.
forward to it.
Yes, indeed. I want to ask you first. You often refer to God as the ultimate content creator. And I want to
Absolutely.
know when you discovered that you weren't just going to use your talent for tech and video just as a job, but when you decided to lean in more as this being a calling or something that you felt led to do by God.
Yeah, yeah, that is an interesting question. So my family and I, we lived and worked in South Africa for about 5 years, 2010 to 2015. That was a missionary assignment, but it was also a technology assignment for myself. Often get that question from younger people. How in the world did you go to be a missionary as an IT guy? That's another story for another time. But yeah, it was while there in South Africa that I decided to really kind of get into the creator world. Still doing tech, still doing a lot of leading a technology team, running technology for an NGO that covered the entire SADC region. So it's like 13 countries in the southern part of the continent of Africa. But while in that space, I decided to do a fitness vlog. Wanted to lose some weight. Just, the doctor was like, you're heading in the wrong direction. So decided to take the insanity challenge. I don't know how many people are familiar with Shaun T and Beachbody, but yeah, decided to
I
do that
remember.
challenge and was like, man, let me dive in here. And one of the things that I recognized, if I was going to really be successful, it's a 60-day challenge. If I was going to really be successful with that challenge, I was going to need to have some kind of accountability or some other thing that I put around it. And so one of the accountability measures was that I was going to record this video of my workout every day of the 60 days. And it worked. But it also kind of catapulted me into this creator world, and it opened my eyes to see like, wow, during that process, during that time, during those 60 days, there were people that were reaching out. There were people that were cheering me on. There were people that did not know me, but they were following this content. And they were just like, man, thank you. And one person in particular, older gentleman, messaged me directly, privately, I should say, and was like, man, I at first, for the first week or two that you've been doing these, I was just watching. But somewhere around week 3 for you, I decided I'm going to actually start doing this. Like, if Kirk can do this, I can do this too. And it just dawned on me like, man, content is crazy. Content has this all-encompassing effect. In fact, I like to say that content is a little glimpse of omnipresence. It's like God's gift to us, because content, these people that were commenting, these people that were messaging me, these people that were hitting me up, these people were quite literally all over the world, and they were all looking at the same piece of content. And I just said, man, that's exponential impact. That's exponential reach. It wasn't until some years later that I read this book by Jordan Rayner, and the book is called Called to Create. And in that intro, in the literal the intro of his book, he says before God tells us, he was loving, holy, kind, merciful. He says right there in the beginning of the Bible, in the beginning, God created. He tells us he is a creator before he gives us any other version or identity of himself. And I just was like, man, there's so much more to this creator thing than what I had originally anticipated, what I originally thought. And so it's been an evolving ideology for some time. And I've just kind of settled on the fact now that the God who created the universe, who created us, left an indelible imprint on his creation, right? His children, um, something in us that is called to create. So, yeah, we are just following in the footsteps of the ultimate content creator as we create, whether it's food, whether it's art, whether it's videos, whether it's music, whether it's a social post, like every form of content that is created to be consumed. As we create it, we are following in the footsteps of a loving God who called us to create and put that innate desire within us. So that's kind of it gives you a little bit of the backstory of how I've arrived at that thing. There's so many other little bends and twists and turns in the road that has helped me to evolve it over the years. But that's if I would say that's kind of the origin of it for me. Yeah,
I love that. I love that perspective. If we really look at ourselves as created in the image of God and this creativity or this desire or ability to create being implanted in us, it
absolutely.
really can change how you approach the things that you do in your life every day if you approach them from a creator mindset. That's
Right.
really powerful, really powerful. I want to ask you how you transitioned from doing IT professionally and being in that tech world professionally and transitioning into doing it for yourself full time, transition that into ministry. Can you talk me through a little bit about that process and how you made that leap?
Right. So, I it's we're going around the bush, but my career when I got out of college, I graduated with a bachelor's of science in engineering technology and wanted to work in the technology space. And that's a longer story, but I finally got a job at NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, and loved working there. Probably one of the worst jobs I worked, but definitely the best job on my resume. Just having NASA on your resume, just it's like it's worth its weight in gold. Left there, went to T. Rowe Price, and worked there for some years, and probably some of my most storied years in IT was at T. Rowe Price. But after that, I went to work for the Seventh Day Adventist Church, the World Church organization, which is also headquartered there in Maryland, just outside of DC in Silver Spring. And I work for them as a technical trainer, setting up their finance ERP for their country offices around the world. So for a good number of years, I was just traveling and working with the church, with a Christian denomination, essentially. So I've always seen my skills as being, you know, on loan from the Lord to be able to serve for His purpose. So I've always seen it that way, and it was just in that space that while working for the church, traveling, I got the opportunity to go now and live and work in South Africa, and then under that opportunity, they gave me in my portfolio the media team. They were like, "We want you to run the media team." I was like, "I don't know media." I was like, "Well, you'll figure it out. You're an IT guy." I'm like, "Okay." And so that's the other part of that story of wanting to do this fitness vlog was also me saying, "Well, I've got a media team now that I'm managing. I've got to be able to speak intelligently to what they have to do in order to produce what I'm asking of them." And so, me going through the process of creating a YouTube channel and getting in the rhythm of creating content on a regular basis helped me to better align with and lead my team of media professionals who were doing that work on a regular basis. We had a 24/7 TV station there in South Africa that we had, I mean, sets, the set design, all that stuff, big box production. And again, I was just providing managerial oversight, right? I was not one of the experts, but I could see that this was it was definitely a passion of mine, and I could see that God was like, this may be your your next thing. So came back to the States and worked as chief information officer for a number of higher ed institutions here in North Alabama. And then that chapter closed right around COVID. And I decided to make that pivot into media full time and really wasn't 100% sure how that was going to work. I was really trying to do content or production for others. And some of that led me to creating content for others to learn online. So my YouTube channel is about, how to use StreamYard, how to use Ecamm, how to use Restream, and several of these web-based streaming platforms. Some of them you install OBS and vMix and Wirecast. There's so many of them that are out there, but I was just basically showcasing to other churches, right? Because I was working with my church for free, but I wanted to put out content on YouTube to help other churches leverage these platforms because everybody's just trying to figure it out at the beginning of the pandemic. We
Yeah.
had church was closed, and we had to figure out how could we have a meaningful worship experience. And so there's just so many things I was learning. I would learn something in the morning, I would create a video in the evening and post it, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And so again, that also let me know like this is a service. This was a being of benefit. This was having impact. And again, just like I said earlier with the fitness vlog, it was just mind-boggling to me how many people were commenting, how many people were responding, and literally creating relationships and having impact with folks quite literally around the world. Just really drove home to me that this was more than just something I was doing to pass the time. Of course, some brand deals started to come in as well. I did content for StreamYard, I did content for Ecamm, did content for EV and several others. I mean, I can't even count, but several different monetary opportunities opened up, and then I just began to say, "Okay, God, however you want to use this, I'm going to go down this road and really structure it in a way that allows for it to be my full-time thing." So that kind of gave me some context as well, but there's a fulfillment piece there that I can, it's intangible. Anytime when you talk to somebody who is refilled by what they do, you can see it. And
Yeah.
so for me, whenever I'm doing this, I mean, yeah, even when there is no pay, when there is no project, I'm still tinkering, I'm still playing with it, I'm still, I want to be an expert. I feel like, there are some areas where I do well, but I'm always learning. You and I have met in the coaching program where, again, we're both pursuing excellence, pursuing greatness and greater for ourselves. So that's kind of been a hallmark of what I've done as well. And I just feel like there's a number of ways that we can serve through it. There's so many inflection points that happen there. I feel like some of it I'm not being as cohesive in sharing the story, but God brought so many people into my I guess sphere of influence that I was able to serve in so many different ways, some with large followings, others, just starting out, and we were able to help them to coach through and grow it just by following different things. And a pattern began to emerge there that I kind of started to put together and term the digital footprint. Like it just kind of everything that has to do with your online persona or online presence um, is the digital footprint. So that was like the base level, and of course, that comes out of some of it comes out of my IT background in IT security because some of it does have to do with security. So that was kind of the base level. It's like, okay, everybody has a digital footprint. There's no if, ands, or buts. It's not like, well, I never wanted one. No, if you engage online, you have one. So that was kind of the base level. But what began to emerge was some of these content activities that I was teaching people to do and working with them to do and provide for their own brand. I began to see those effects and impacts of those activities in their digital footprint. And so begin to start really looking at some things like that. I know we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but I just want you to see kind of the trajectory. Like those are the things that kind of really brought to mind. Like, okay, this could be something of a signature offering or program that we can work with and to really help people to leverage their online presence to be working for them even when they're asleep. So
I love that. You said so many things that I think are important to note, because I definitely want to get into talking about our digital footprint because
sure.
in this season we can't escape it, And I love what you said about that, that it's happening anyway. So we may as well have a say in how we craft it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
definitely want to talk about that. But you talked about number one, the difference between, because I'm a nerd and I get stuck in these places, the difference between IT and media. And I think people
Mm,
that aren't techie, they look at it as one big blob and they don't see that there's a difference between the very IT technical behind the wall building connecting type thing and then the in front of
mhm.
camera creation of things. So I think that's so important that you pointed that out because, like your boss said to you, "Oh, you're an IT guy, you'll figure it
You're
out."
right.
And it's so completely different. Like you're a techie person, you'll figure
Yeah,
it out.
yeah.
And you
Yep.
did, but it's so different. There are two completely different worlds. So I love that you pointed that out. And then the second thing is
Absolutely.
talking about how so many people had to make a shift during COVID
Mhm.
and as many ways as COVID was hard and difficult, and we lost lives, and there was so much uncertainty
Yeah,
in those times. So many people were able to take that uncertainty, like you, and take that difficult time and use it to make a shift. And I think by God's design and intent, He wanted some of us to be shaken from the normal day to day things that we were comfortable and complicit in and shift
absolutely.
into what our season is and what our purpose is. Did you feel any trepidation about that or was it more of I'm in this situation I got to do what I got to do? How did you feel during that season emotionally? What were you going through?
Yeah, no, definitely trepidation. Definitely, a healthy dose of fear. Just was uncertainty. Not knowing exactly what those next steps were going to be. I was working as IT director for a community college here locally, and they just kind of were doing the flip flop thing. And of course, as an IT guy, you can be classified as essential if we remember those terms from COVID days. And so yeah, they came back and basically said, man, you are essential, so you're gonna have to come back to work. And I remember having that conversation with the family about because I'd been working from home, but home for a couple of weeks at that point. But they wanted the entire IT team to come back, and I had that conversation with the family. Two younger kids at that time. They're a little older now, but chatting with them, and had our family worship for the evening, said our prayers, and I'm tucking them in, saying good night. My son went to bed easy. My daughter, however, she's kind of looked at me and was like, do you want to go back to work? And I was like, no, no, not really. But as an adult, you kind of you have to do the things that you're responsible to do. And she's like, man, so they just call you back and you have to go? Like they don't even give you a choice. I was like, dang.
Oh,
And so
how
that
the
was
children
a
can
major
check
moment
you.
for me because I tell you what, man, you stepped right on the toes, and I remember saying, man, because I'd been feeling the itch, right? I really wanted to kind of do my own thing, but just didn't have any, I guess, catalyst, any motivator, and I think that was God nudging me out. And if I'm honest, as I look back at it now with perspective, probably should have done it a year or so prior. I feel like
Oh,
that was the time where God really wanted me to make that shift. But I think for myself, like so many others, COVID was that perfect storm that really called us into what God was calling us to do. And so, yeah, left there with some semblance of what I wanted to do, but uh, didn't have you leave a job that has, money coming in regularly and you go off to do something where it's like, I'm not certain where the next paycheck's coming from. That was the part I was really concerned about and definitely was just wondering, okay, God, what are you going to do? But it definitely caused me to lean in more to my relationship with him, my faith. And again, like I said, it caused me to find this niche, this area, this lane. I never knew that I was good on camera until I had to start doing it on a regular basis, and I absolutely love it. And then, therein opened other opportunities. People wanted me to come and host. People wanted me to. I mean, there's just so many different things that opened up. Virtual public speaking, being media pastor at my church now. I've been media pastor for the last 3 years, and that is an opportunity that came about because of some of the skills that people saw in me. And so again, just so many different things that came out of that time. And again, I just believe that was God calling me into a different season and into purpose. So absolutely.
I love that.
Definitely there was fear, but I was excited as well. I don't know if the two can be felt at the same time, right? Fear, but excited about what was going to happen and what God was going to do, and just to kind of go along for that roller coaster ride, and see how it was going to end up. So it's been really cool.
I love that. You definitely have a radio announcer voice. So you definitely have to be using that on camera somewhere, hosting, doing something. So God knew what he was doing, pointing you in that direction.
Mercy.
You call yourself a geek speaker preacher. Okay.
That
Talk to
now
me
I
about
will say that there's a story behind that too. There's a
I
ton of
need to hear this
stories.
story.
But well, that it was my audience was like, "You're definitely a geek, but you're a speaker, which is not typical. Geeks don't typically tend to be good speakers, but generally, when you get excited, you're not just speaking, you're preaching." So they would call me, "Hey, Geek Speaker Preacher." I'm like, I don't know if I really like that name. So, but anyway, after a while, I just said, I'm going to run with it, because it's such a cool thing. I am a self-professed Jesus geek. That's what I would say, and I guess they kind of just flipped it on its head and say, "You're the Geek Speaker Preacher." So, but yes, I absolutely love Jesus, unapologetic follower of Christ. I believe He's the Lord of my life. And then, secondly, I love all things tech and media, and so there's definitely some geeking out that happens there. I love to get into the guts of it. If you want me to derail my entire live stream, just start asking questions. What light is that? What camera is that? And I will just go down the rabbit hole with you. So I'm definitely a geek where that's concerned, but I definitely get excited. And so while speaking is a gift that God has given me, the gift of gab, no doubt about it. I love to speak, but when I get excited about something, it comes out a different way, and many consider that to be preaching. And listen, if we're gonna preach, let's preach. I don't mind, if that's what you want to call it, if that's how you receive it, that's fine with me. But yeah, the Geek Speaker Preacher is just these three terms really make up not only who I am, but what I love to do and what I feel called to do as well.
That's good. My coach, pastor, mentor, he always talks about the ability to be this and that, and how
Mm,
sometimes when we are uncommon, which that is certainly uncommon, because it's so different and out of the norm, we have to sometimes wrestle with walking in an identity that looks completely
so
different
true.
from anything else out there. Was that your
Yep.
experience, or did you easily embrace being something like a geek speaker preacher?
It was my experience. I did not. I have no blueprint. I had no template. I didn't see anybody else doing this, and so I have a good friend and mentor who is a media pastor, but even from his perspective and his road, right, his trajectory, the path that he took towards getting there, totally different than my own. I'm not vocationally trained as a pastor, but having served as a missionary, there are some credentials that I received and some training that I received in order to do that. So and then of course I'm on the media side and I have the IT piece. And so in some respects, there's probably nobody trained as specifically to be a media pastor than me, but just that wasn't the trajectory, wasn't really the path. So there's just so many different little pieces of that thing that had to come together. But yeah, I did kind of bristle at it a bit. I resisted a little because I was like, well, this isn't exactly. I mean, when people call me pastor, I would literally correct them. No, that's not what I do. That's not me. And, after a while, God just had to say, yeah, that's actually what I've called you to do. I've called you to serve in this way. And it may, it, just because it doesn't look like the definition that you've known all your life doesn't necessarily mean that that's not what I'm calling you to do. Because I've called you to do something new. I'm not calling you to do what I did yesterday or through everybody else. Your story's not going to look the same. I'm calling to do something new. And so once I accepted that, once I recognized that, I leaned heavy into that space. And so it's also the space that I coach from, this space that I serve from, as a media pastor, digital content specialist, but also as a content coach for my primary business. That's I lean heavy into that now, and I recognize also, those that convergence of the three areas that I exist in also really gives me a very defined niche. And so there's some benefits that come along with it as well that I learned over time. And so, yeah, definitely comfortable in my own skin currently, but there was a time where I really pushed back on that. And so for anybody that is listening and is saying, man, I'm still kind of trying to figure out what my voice is, what area we can use others, as they say, success leaves clues. You want to, look around and see what others are doing, but it isn't going to be a template for you. It's just giving you some examples, maybe some insight. But you're going to have to find your own path. Everybody's different. Everybody's story is different. And so what God is doing with you is going to be unique. It's going to be specific. It's going to be individual. And so you got to leave room for that, even as you plan, as you grow.
I appreciate you saying that because I think there are so many people. It reminds me of what Miles Monroe said about how the richest place, the wealthiest place on earth is the cemetery, because so many
Hmm.
people go to the grave with things on the inside of them that they didn't birth. And I think a lot
Mm,
of that has to do with these norms that are imposed upon us. We see
yep.
this one image of a pastor. We see this one image of a teacher. We see this one image of an IT person. And
Yep.
if we don't fit that readily, sometimes we run away from it, but we're missing the place of fulfillment. We're missing a place of being of greatest use. And so I'm so glad that you said that because I'm a firm believer that we don't have to be one thing or do things the way that we've always seen them done. Matter of fact, that's one of the worst phrases you could ever say to me is
Couldn't agree
what we've
more.
always done is, ugh,
We've always done it
like,
this way.
I don't care. And I think some of us are blueprint makers. We're going to be
Right.
the people that create the blueprint for other people because what we're called to do is not out there. And
Yeah.
living fully in that creates so much permission for other
Yeah.
people to walk in things that don't look like everything else. So I appreciate that so much. I want to
So amazing. Yeah.
unpack
Mhm.
your digital footprint. I want to talk about what that is, and I want to talk about why you feel like that's important, especially for entrepreneurs and especially for
Right.
faith-based entrepreneurs. Why do people need to be concerned about a digital footprint?
But so it's we are living in a digital world. I think COVID has accelerated that transition. But we just, yeah, that's how we engage. Me and you met through the digital world, right? I
Yep.
mean, so this is by and large, there used to be this saying of, man, are you going to go meet that person, that you're going to go physically meet someone who you met online? Like, you need to be careful. That used to be the thing.
Yeah.
Now, I literally heard two young people talking about this yesterday. Are like, you're going to go meet this person. You've never talked to them online before. Like, it's completely flipped. Like, you got to engage with them online first before you go meet them in person. That was not the case before. And so we live in this digital world, just using that as an example to kind of give us a benchmark, or, in terms of where we are currently. And there's so many things that we just take for granted. This is just, you send an email, we take it for granted. Sending and receiving email used to be somebody's entire job. That used to be, reserved for, like, there was an email department, and that one email address for an entire organization or corporation. And you'd send that person your email and say, hey, send this, and they would type it up and send it to them. That used to be one person's job. Now we all do it.
Right.
Social media profiles, there's direct messages, there's just so many ways of communication and connection. And yet, many of us haven't really taken a 50,000-foot view of what all of it looks like together. Like what does it all look like? What is that digital representation of myself? And how could it be helping me or hurting me? Because unfortunately, there is no in between. There is no in between. I had a experience with a guy. We were both volunteering at an event, and so we at the event we were cleaning up a homeless shelter, and of course I was dressed appropriately for what we were there to do. And so we got to talking, and he's like, "What do you do?" I do video, and he's like, oh, "Okay, cool," and just kind of told him some of the stuff that I do. And in conversation, I could recognize he needed some of the services that I provide, and so I just we exchanged information. I gave him my email address. And just say, "Hey, man, you hit me up if you ever need something. Hit me up." And he's like, "Well, yeah, yeah." So he sent something through, and I sent him back an email from the email address that I have, which is info@howitallworks.com. So unbeknown to me, I learned this later. He really didn't believe that I could do what I said I could do because of the way that I looked. I mean, I just didn't present like, I was like, what is this guy? Is this guy serious? Can he really do video? So then he is gonna reply with this obligatory response of like, "Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really not in the space right now." But as he was hitting the reply button, he realized that my email address was info@howitallworks. So he says, "Okay, well, man, howitallworks.com. Let me just check and see what his website looks like." You know, just out of curiosity, before I hit reply, let me. So he goes to the website and he sees that's my show page, my content page. So he goes to the website. He sees, oh, this is pretty cool. This is well designed. Looks like he's been creating content for years. And these videos look good. On that website, I have one of the tabs says Kirk. And when you click that, it goes over to kirknugent.com. So he goes over there. He's like, whoa, this is a whole ecosystem. This guy's got everything set up. There's automation. He's got several programs. Clearly, he does this for real. So then he, off of my website, schedules a clarity call, which is a paid call. I want to be clear. And I was just going to do something free for him. And I remember getting into the call and I was like, "Hey, I remember meeting you at the thing. Why didn't you just respond to the email?" He's like, I went down the rabbit hole. I looked at 6 or 7 of your YouTube videos. I looked at your Facebook page. I looked at your Instagram. I went to your website. I booked the call. This is the perfect example of what I want to share with folks in terms of having a digital footprint that's curated, having a digital footprint that is intentional, that that gives you the opportunity to present your best self to the world and in rooms that you sometimes not may be able to get into, understanding that that's what a digital footprint can do for you. It's like another member of your team, and it's working. If you work it, it'll work for you. We know this. Content is the force multiplier that's at the top of your funnel. But where are you taking people to? Is there a mailing list? Is there an email address? And do you check it? Yeah, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but that's part of the digital footprint is your systems and your processes and your procedures around how people can gain access to your genius. Your investment in your digital footprint is indicative of your desire for people to gain access to what you and you alone can provide. So it's basically you being a steward of what God has placed within you. And if you're not a believer, I'll say it a different way. It's giving people an opportunity to recognize that there is inherent value in what you provide and bring to the table in the space that you are working. And so you're simply betting on yourself and your digital footprint, being intentional about your digital footprint, what the bio says, what that banner says, which profile picture you're using across different platforms, and what is that one link, that one direction that you're trying to get people to go towards. How do you get them off these platforms, off of this super highway into your own ecosystem, something that you're not renting, you're not a guest on, something that you own. Those are the things that I always try to help people to work through. And there's a strategy to employ to really deliver what I like to call an A-list digital footprint.
Man, that's fantastic. I often come across people who say, I don't do that technology stuff. I don't do social media. And one of the things you said that I think ties so beautifully into this, you always say content equals opportunity. So for
Mm,
that person who's like, I don't do that tech stuff or I don't do that social media stuff, but they're a business owner or they're a person in ministry who has a message, what would you say to
yeah.
that person as it relates to content creating opportunity? Can you break down what that looks like in practical terms?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say to that person is, um, you you don't know who can be drastically impacted by what it is you have to offer, um, until you begin to put it out there. You have no idea, and I'm telling you this from experience. And the reason why Tiffany's head is shaking right now is because she's. You just have no idea who it could be for. And one of the things I like to say to coaching clients is you plus your client's problem equals success. You plus your client's problem can equal rapid success. Like if their client can get to across the finish line or potential client can get across the finish line in 2 years, but then working with you can be done in 2 days. It's almost irresponsible
Yeah.
to not make them aware that you exist. If you've ever been on a road trip and you're in some rural areas, and you stop at a convenience store, you will find that the prices are a little more expensive. You'll find
Yeah.
that the water bottle is $5. And the reason why it's expensive is because that store is a store of convenience. Your content is the convenience store for your niche.
Mm,
And if you make it convenient, if you're not, it's not just, listen, they're going to be able to get to where they're hoping to get to with or without you. The main thing that you as the steward of the gift that you have, or the person who has created a system or a practice or a framework around the transformation that you help to provide, you want to make sure that there's a healthy dose of convenience in there. Because that convenience is the real component through which people will say, I really need to just kind of work with you. And that to me is, again, it's one of those responsibility things. I don't put out content because I like to hear my voice or because I like to the look of how I look on camera. I put out content because I know that somebody might be out there who was like me yesterday. Like yesterday's version of me needs the content I'm creating today. And so I wasn't able to find the video that I needed yesterday, but I was able to figure out the solution. So I'm creating the video, creating the content so that anybody who's yesterday's version of me can find that video and get over that hurdle that much quicker. So that's the main concept that I like to share with people is just content is you being a good contributing member of society. And one of the major fringe benefits is that people will come into your ecosystem. They will want more. And you just want to create that structure, that journey that allows them, again, a clear and defined way to access your genius.
that's
Yeah.
so good. Clear and say it again.
A clear and structured way for them to
Structure.
access your genius.
Yes, yes, and everybody has a genius. I think we get so
Everybody.
wrapped up in looking at people. That breakdown just there is so good, especially for people who are still hesitant to create.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about what the kinds of things that we have to reconsider to shift our mindset on that. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times people are hesitant because they're not the expert on their area of genius. They don't even recognize what they know and are able to do and what they're gifted for as a genius. But I think people are so hesitant because they don't understand just that fact that I don't have to be 10 steps ahead in order to help
Hmm.
somebody, just one step ahead.
Boom.
Just where I am today,
One
knowing what I know
half a
now.
step.
Half a step helps the person that's right behind me that's
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. And they don't care if you're the expert of
No,
10 steps ahead. They need the problem solved that your half a step has. And so
that's it.
I
That's
love
it.
that because I just I'm so passionate. I don't know if you can hear when I get excited about it, but I'm so passionate about people embracing who they are, who God created them to
Yes,
be, and then serving in
absolutely.
that way and shifting your mindset from self to service. That sometimes
Mm,
releases so much of the angst we have about putting ourselves
yeah,
out there because we're still so concerned with what we look like. We don't sound like so
mhm,
and so. We don't
mhm,
deliver like this other person who's got 2 million viewers and is doing the thing. We have
mhm,
to just be focused on there's one person out there who I have the solution to their problem. And if I don't get it
right.
to them, they continue to suffer or they continue to struggle. And I think
Yeah.
shifting that mindset from being so self conscious to being more servant minded is really helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
The other way that I like to say that is, because many times when I chat with, especially believers, let me say this, especially believers, when it comes on to making the ask or making the offer, we struggle because it's
yes.
like, well, I don't
Talk
want to take
about that.
advantage of
Talk
them.
about it.
I don't want to. I don't want to charge. I feel like God gave this to me, and so I need freely I receive, freely I give, and you're just killing yourself because God is actually giving you a way for you to sustain life and take care of your family and your responsibilities. And you just won't charge for it. And one of the things that I say is you've got to stop thinking about taking advantage, right? And think of yourself as the advantage.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I am the advantage for this person. My story, what God has written into my story is the advantage for this person to experience transformation or success in whatever area it is that you help. And that seek to serve thing is so critical. Like, I remember getting into content and earlier on, well, he wasn't official content coach, but he was like a big brother in content for me and not a believer at all. I mean, this dude there's no thus saith the Lord whatsoever. And I remember chatting with him. I'm like, tell me what the secret is to success. And what he said blew my mind. He's like, you got to seek to serve. I'm looking at him like, seek to serve. You're not a believer. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, man. If you're in it for yourself, it's gonna fail. But if you're in it to serve others, it's gonna blow up. I'm just looking at him like, what? Okay, that's easy for me to do. But
Right.
I'm shocked that that was what his advice was. Like, seek to serve. Put the person in the center and think about what you would want that person to experience and just deliver. And I just said, wow, so simple, so profound. And yet it's a model that we have in the Bible as believers. And content creators are using it as their strategy and
Yeah.
they're experiencing ridiculous success. Now, they experience that success because they're also willing to be intentional about creating the infrastructure. The infrastructure is how people, it's not just the content. Creating content is just the first part, in my opinion, but creating the infrastructure, the systems. Well, I had a session with a coaching client recently, and we were talking about a particular thing that she's been able to overcome. And I'm like, is that something you'd like to help others experience that same victory? And she's like, yeah. It's like, well, have you written the process? No. Have you created a structure? Like, what would a person need to do? Step one, step two. Now, she knew it, but she had not created the framework. This is what I mean by being intentional about your footprint, because once you know exactly what it is you want, the transformation you want people to provide, and you have that document, you've done the work, you now can begin to create a journey. And that journey is what the digital footprint enables people to experience even before they actually start booking the business with you.
That's excellent. I recently, I mean, and by recently, I mean like 2 days ago, had
Yeah.
a moment of conviction about journey.
Come on.
And because I'm a high achiever, and I know you'll understand this,
Yeah.
sometimes you can get so focused on the destination. You can get so
Yeah.
focused on the achievement that you're not present in the journey and you don't have enjoyment
Mm.
of the journey. The journey of
Yeah.
creating my digital footprint intentionally, the joy
Yep.
in crafting this machine, this engine that can get help to the people who need it the most. And so you've said that
Love it.
word journey several times. So I know that the Lord is sending you to poke me some more. But I do
Let's go.
love that we need to start looking at things as a journey, which also means
Mhm.
that the journey is not going to be perfect and
No.
that it's not going to be a straight line. That there in the
See,
learning,
this
in
is
the
so good.
building, it'll be there'll be twists and turns and there'll be 10 steps forward and one step back and three steps to
One
the
step
side.
back.
And that's
Mhm.
okay. That is
Yeah.
part of embracing that there is a journey to this and being excited about that part of it and knowing that people will be helped as you are on your own journey while you're creating
Mhm.
their journey can be really powerful. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Love that.
And I can tell you right now, that's a huge component that differentiates what we do to what AI can do.
Yes.
AI cannot do what you just said.
Oh
The
man.
imperfect, perfect journey, right? The perfect journey is imperfect, and AI doesn't know how to do that. And so we just so the struggle is this tension of, well, I don't want to put it out there yet because it's not ready. Well, actually, it isn't going to be ready until you put it out there. That's number one. So
Yeah.
you're not going to learn what you need to learn until you begin to put it out there publicly, because it's an act of you doing that is actually going to help you to perfect it. But then the second piece is putting it out there imperfect is what a human would do,
Yes.
not artificial intelligence. And that component is critical. And I always, keep on saying that to folks these days. It's like, leverage our AI as much as you possibly can, but make sure whatever you put out there has a healthy dose of human, and human is
Yeah.
not perfect.
That's so good. And I'm glad you mentioned AI. And I think it's important for people to hear from the perspective of someone who has been in technology, been in IT, been in media
Mhm.
all this time, that AI is a tool and it is not going
Yep.
to take over all the things because it
Mm-mm.
is not human. And if we're smart, we'll get on board so we can have a stake in making sure that it needs us instead of it running us. So I think that's a really
That's it.
cool thing to really acknowledge. And as a believer, I believe we have dominion here. And so we can't let
Mm,
these created things run wild without our stamp, our footprint on it to make sure that it is
totally agree.
operating in the way that God intends. And so
Yeah.
AI is a
You
wonderful
you you
tool.
said a lot right there, sis. I mean,
Yeah.
like, believers have a responsibility to be involved with AI, or else those models simply don't exist. So what you receive back from AI is based on the percentages of people who are asking these questions. And
Yes.
if they don't hold your viewpoint, then that model is not present, if that makes sense. And so
Yes.
we have to engage. It's the old adage from computer days, way back, garbage in, garbage out. We called it
Yeah.
gigo. It's a computer, right? So whatever is in there is what's going to come back out, but we haven't taken enough time. So not just, I'll say this explicitly, so not just people of faith. That is one demographic that needs to really engage with AI for us to get better responses back, but also people of color.
Yeah.
We've got to engage with AI in order for us to get that perspective back that we know we have. And again, I'll flip this again to say this is another metric for us to be able to charge more, because a real human being is still going to be worth more. The value of what we do is going to be worth more. And that's why I love long form content. That's why, we're doing what we're doing right now in this podcast episode, because this can't be done by AI. This kind of conversational style, long form, we're something like 40 something minutes in at this point, and it just can't be duplicated. And in the twists and turns in the conversation, and the laughing and the inflection points, this cannot be replicated. And so
Yeah.
you have your rubric, you have your template, you have your kind of your strategy that you can employ that really helps you to stand out against this backdrop of what AI is doing. And I think it's of more benefit, and it will be a metric for us to be able to charge more.
That's awesome. That's encouraging too. I want to ask you about creating our digital footprint. So, for
Yeah.
someone who is an entrepreneur or a professional or someone who does anything and they want to, because I think everyone should be creating and have authority over creating their digital footprint.
Mm,
But what
mhm,
are 3 steps that you would recommend for someone who now has the aha that I need to have more control over my own digital footprint and what that looks like? What are 3
mhm.
practical steps that people can do to get started?
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I'm trying to, whittle it down to three. But I want to say one thing quick first is the digital footprint is already out there, y'all.
Right.
It's a matter of owning it. It's a matter of being intentional about owning it. One of the things I was working with a client. I'm gonna get to the three questions, to the three things in a second.
No
But when I was
problem.
working with a client and the lady, she speaks on stages. She uh nets about 15 to 20K every speaking engagement. She's highly sought after in her field. She regularly guests on different podcasts. She works for this organization, but she has no website of her own. She doesn't have, other than having a account on the social media platforms, she's not posting regularly on social media platforms. And so largely the term I like to use for somebody like that is she is leasing her impact.
Oh,
She's selling it to the highest bidder. Because here's the thing, every time her face shows up on a flyer that she's going to be in an event, that event does well. Every time if her handle is on a podcast, that podcast does well, because her audience has been looking for her, but she hasn't given them a structured place again to access her genius. So they've just, wherever they can find her, it's like, okay, oh, she's going to be speaking over here. Let me go over there. Well, she's going to be on this podcast. Let me go over here. And she's waiting for these other entities to be able to help her deliver again her voice and her message to her audience. But the audience has been waiting. So what we did, she had a digital footprint, but it's just completely abysmal. What we did is we began to put the infrastructure in place. So now she has her own podcast. Now she's got her own website. She's got her own contact form. She has her own mailing list. She's not leasing her impact anymore. She owns her impact.
yeah.
And she's actually able to pay to net a higher fee for everything that she does, because she has her own ecosystem now, and she has quantifiable numbers around her audience. Like, okay, so, we're going to have you come on the podcast. She can tell them how many subscribers she has, how many people who download her podcast, how many people she has on her mailing list. That has drastically increased her profile
Yeah.
because she's actually put everything together in one place. And so the first thing I ask people to do when it comes on to your, being intentional about your digital footprint, is to Google yourself. Just put your name in that Google and see what comes up. I'm gonna tell you right now, having done this for the last couple of months, I've got a pilot program. We got 10 people going through, and we're almost done. I mean, one guy, we found a rogue account. It's his picture. It's a derivative of his name. It's not his account.
Wow.
We had to get rid of it. Another lady, she had a hacked Instagram account. We were able to clear that up. She was able to gain access to that account. Now she has that back under her own ownership, as she can intentionally take care of that. But Google yourself first. First step, put your name in that search bar and Google yourself. And if you don't like what comes back, the way that you change it is by putting out more content.
Yeah.
Just I'm kind of fast forward, but the first thing to do is Google yourself. The second thing to do is standardize on one handle. One handle. I'm Kirk Nugent on everything. Blue Sky came out, and I went and got Kirk Nugent. I have no posts over there, but I have it because I want to own my digital footprint is me. So standardize your handle. Don't make people guess. Well, I'm, just Kirk on Facebook, but I'm, Geek Speaker Preacher on Instagram, and I'm, Nugent News on YouTube. No, at Kirk Nugent everywhere. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I know it's not Twitter anymore. It's called X, but all of the places I'm at Kirk Nugent. That's the second thing I'll tell you to do. Just standardize your handle. You're just making it easy for folks. Because I'm telling you, if somebody finds you on one platform and you're at Kirk Nugent, they come on the other platform, they see the same at Kirk Nugent. That helps them to connect the dots. But you know what else helps them to connect the dots? Your banner and your profile picture.
Okay.
Your profile picture is critical. It should not be a different one on all the different platforms. It should be the same. Again, it's a visual cue. Okay, I got the same handle. I've got the same picture. It's the same person. And if you have more followers on one platform or the other, there's you know what I'm saying? There's a notoriety that starts to develop. Okay, he's got 12,000 subscribers on YouTube, not so much on Instagram, but it's the same person. I see the same picture. I see the same handle. He's got an ecosystem. And then I can go to that website, whatever that website might be. So those are the first three things I would tell you to do. Google yourself, standardize your handle on all the platforms, and then standardize your banner, your profile picture. And I'll give you a bonus for the fourth, but this is a little harder to do, but to really have a bio that speaks about what you do, that speaks to that potential person. All right. And the bio should be a brand statement of sorts, a version of your brand statement. It talks about who you serve, what you help them to experience, and why they should pick you. And that's what I mean when I say it's a little harder to do. But having that bio again across those platforms, it's critical. When somebody comes to your social media page, which you're renting, by the way, I need to throw that in there. You don't own it. You don't pay anything for Facebook. You don't pay anything for Instagram. Don't pay anything for YouTube. You rent. You're a guest. You're not even a renter. Actually, if I'm quite honest with you, you're a guest,
Yeah.
and they can evict you anytime they want to.
Yeah.
And so the critical thing to think through here is, what are the three words that come to mind when somebody comes to your profile? What are those three words? And it should be something that's curated, something that you have designed, something that you have been thoughtful in making sure that comes across very clearly. When you see a digital footprint that is curated, it's clear. And again, I've said it multiple times, and I just am going to explicitly state it here. If you don't have a website, I'm sorry, but that's a critical component, because a website you own. You own a website. That's yours. Nobody can take it from you. And the byproduct of a website is, of course, your mailing list. Again, you own it. No algorithm can stop that email from getting from you to the person who raised their hand and said, "I'd like to hear more from you." That's what they're saying when they hit subscribe to your mailing list. They may be saying the same thing when they hit subscribe or follow on socials, but you don't get to determine if that notification hits their phone. Whereas with an email, you do. So the digital footprint, those are the pieces, the major components. There's a lot more to it, but to get things started, if you clean up those things, you're going to see a lot. And I think even as you do the Googling of your name, that's going to give you a roadmap of what you need to do next, because you might see some stuff where you're like, I don't want that out there.
Uh-huh. I learned that a long time ago.
Oh man.
I love what you said. I want to pull
Yeah.
out a couple
Yeah.
things just to reiterate what you said. When you talked about your bio,
Sure.
I noticed that the things that you said to add in your bio were all focused on your potential
Mhm.
client and not on yourself, even in your bio.
Absolutely. Not
It's
on
not,
yourself.
I went to this school, I
Yes.
got this degree, I do these things.
Nope.
People don't
Stop
care.
it.
How
Stop it.
can you help me?
Nope.
And so I love that portion of it. And then I really want to highlight this idea of when you're on social media, it's a great platform, but it's not yours. And for people
It's
to
not
really
yours.
get it, that in the places where you can bring people into your own ecosystem, that you have control over
Mhm.
how you get to connect with them and how you get to
That's
reach
it.
out for them is super important. And remembering that if social media is your only space, that it could get taken away. And we know people who have
Yep.
huge followings that got
Yep.
locked out of their
Locked out.
social media, and it can damage your whole business. It can shut you all the way down. Thank God the people that we know had that system where they got an email list and they could tell their people, "Hey, my
Yep.
IG
Hey,
is shot right now, but
is
I'll keep sending
compromised.
y'all
Yeah.
emails to keep you informed of what we're doing." So that is just so critical. It is so critical.
So there's a guy I met a couple weeks ago at a conference that we were both attending, and he was sharing because he when he realized I have a school community, he was like, "Ah, man, I just set up on school." I was like, "Yeah, it's been great. I moved over from Kajabi." And he's like, "Man, yeah, I was on Facebook and I had 83,000 people in my Facebook group." And I was like, "Whoa." I was like, "So why'd you move to school?" He's like, "'Cause they closed my group." Like, oh
Oh
my
my
gosh,
goodness.
no warning, no nothing, just closing. And I think it's a technicality. He's actually fighting them, but he's moved over. Now, thankfully for him, he had a mailing list as well. And so he set up school in a matter of minutes, transferred everything over, he's got a team. With that large a community, of course he does. But he transferred everything over and sent out a message, gave people a discount to join, and school just rolled out tiers as well. So that's a whole nother huge cheat code that you can use to really upsell, your audience. So because it was a free group, but now he's actually able to directly monetize just by adding some different things at different tiers. So, but yes, he's moved completely now. And again, having his own mailing list, which he owns, that's his own access point to his audience members, gave him the ability to recover from that fairly quickly without it being an entire disaster. But I mean, we're guests on these platforms, and that's a critical point to draw
Definitely.
out.
And
Yeah.
we've seen these platforms come and go and shift and merge, and
Yeah.
people having to start over, even because a platform shuts down or because they get bought out by another platform. So it is so important to make sure that you pull your community into spaces that you own. I think that's just a critical point to bring up. So good.
Absolutely.
So as we
Absolutely.
close, and this has been
Yeah.
so fantastic. We don't have enough time, so we need to we definitely need to regroup and come back and talk some more for sure.
Yeah.
I want to
Sure.
talk about the person because one of the things I think you do masterfully is break down objections and mindset barriers and
Mm,
limiting beliefs. And I feel like because creating your digital footprint, or not even creating it, like you said, it's already created, curating it and owning it is
mhm.
so critical,
Yes.
so
That's
critical. How do
so critical.
we help people? Let's say there's a person who, okay, I'm kind of ready to do this, but I'm camera shy. I don't like to be in front of the camera. And I'm not techie. How do we get those people to take the first steps to create video content? Because I think video content is,
Mm,
I know people have other media that they love and blah, blah, blah. But to me, I
yeah.
feel like because we have grown up watching TV all of these decades, we're so used to seeing video images. What would you say to that person who is camera shy or afraid to put themselves out there on video, or they don't want to get it wrong? How would you motivate them to try video as a medium?
Yeah. I get this question all the time, especially because I'm a huge proponent
Yes.
of live video, which many people disqualify produce video as not being live video, but I disagree. As long as you are alive, as long as you're breathing, and you're recording a video, that video is live video. This podcast episode will be something that we produce, yes, but for the most part, it was live, and I get this objection all the time. And one of the questions I always ask people is, what are you scared of, in terms of going on camera? Because you go out into the world every day and you can't prepare for those moments. You can't prepare for somebody pulling up next to you at the gas station and saying good morning.
Wow.
you know Cold day today, right? I mean, whatever it is, I don't know what it is. We have no idea. Like, I don't know what the person at the register is going to say. Hey, we only can do cash at this register. Do you have cash or credit card? I've got to respond. I don't know what the entire day is going to look like. I have to be able to respond to the day in the moment. It's the same thing with content. I think people put it in a different category. Content is life. Life is content. But with content, we just happen to have the camera on. We're just trying to be specific and intentional about capturing particular moments with our content. And so really the main thing that I like to get down to is what's that base level reason of why you don't want to do it? But more importantly, because I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time there, there's people will run you in circles. What are you missing out on by
Mm,
not doing it? Like who and why do you want to create content? Because if we got to hone in on that. We got to be clear, laser clear on why we're doing this. Because once we get that why, let me tell you, people in their 60s and 70s, once they get a clear why, they'll overcome any of the hows, any of the obstacles because they have a clear why. I've got a guy that I'm working with, and he's like, man, I just want to leave a legacy. I want my grandkids to know how I lived, how I grew up. And so his podcast is just about that. He's taking people through his younger years, migrating to the United States and all this other stuff. And, a couple weeks ago, we had a session where he was telling me he went to his son's house and his grandson asked him a question that he could only have known had he been watching the
wow.
podcast. And the man broke down in tears in our coaching call because that's all he ever
Wow.
wanted. He's got 30, 40 videos up currently. He's still working on it, one a week. They've got 7, maybe 12 views each. But he looks at those 7 to 12 views as
Yeah.
one of his grandkids. If one of my grandkids is watching this, I don't care what the why of the how is. I don't got to figure out the camera, got to figure out the lights, I got to figure out the microphone. I don't care what all that stuff is. If I'm able to fulfill this one why, if I'm able to leave this legacy, I'll leapfrog over all the hurdles, put 10 boulders in my way. I'll figure out how to get over it because this why motivates me to continue doing what I'm doing. When somebody says that they're not certain about getting on camera, they're not certain that they want to create content, I'm saying back to them, you don't have a strong enough why. You find that why, no power on earth could stop you from creating content at that point.
That's so good. And that's true. I think we do so many things just for doing sake and just because,
Mhm.
again, this was always been done, but really grounding ourselves in why am I here? What's the purpose for all this? How can I contribute? How can I leave my legacy? What's important? What's important?
There you
What are
go.
the things that are bubbling
What's
in my
important?
heart? Because when the Bible talks about God giving us the desires of our hearts, I don't read that as God giving us all the
Mm.
stuff we want. I think it's God putting his desires that he wants us to have in our hearts. And if we tap
Our
into
hearts.
that,
Good.
you talk about a why, man, like just
Yeah,
really wanting to align yourself with what God's placed you here on earth to do and what he wants
exactly.
for our lives because he always is going to want what's best for us.
So
So I
good.
just think that's really Kirk. As we get ready to close, I want you to leave our audience with a digital footprint mantra. If you wanted people to know anything about creating a digital footprint, curating their digital footprint, owning their digital footprint, what would that be?
Um, I I I like to say everybody has a digital footprint. But what I'm aiming for is to have a qualification, and that qualification I like to call the A list. And an A list digital footprint, it's not just social; it's exponential, making your genius readily accessible, and some might even say eternal. And so, my question to those that are listening is: Are you an A-lister? All right. My name
Wow.
is Kirk Nugent. I empower high impact professionals to go from inaccessible and unknown to omnipresent and highly compensated with the framework I designed to deliver an A-list digital footprint. I'd love to chat with you, talk with you. If you can get in touch, I've got an assessment on my website, kirkrnugent.com, that'll help you to understand where you are in that digital footprint journey. But I just believe that it could be the difference maker between you walking in purpose and you just kind of haphazardly moving through life. So,
Wow. That's powerful. So I know that people watching are going to want to connect with you, learn how to do this, get involved in what you have to offer. I know you said that you had a pilot plan that was finishing up right now. So, is there a plan for opening that program up soon that people can dive into? And where else can people find you, connect with you, learn how to curate their digital footprint?
Yeah, kirknugent.com is my website. That's the place to go. There, right at the top, there's an assessment that you can take. It's a questionnaire that you fill out. It's about 13 questions. And then we'll respond back to you with letting you know what grade your digital footprint has. It can be a bit of a daunting process. But kirknugent.com, everything that I do based off of what I have on that page. There's a mailing list there. But that's more for content creation. But if you're really looking to do the digital footprint thing, I'd say the first step is taking that assessment. And once you take the assessment, we'll send you some tips, tricks, best practices weekly through that mailing list to be able to take ownership of your digital footprint. So multiple different things that you can do before ever paying anything into what I do. But that program that you talked about, I am rounding it out right now. Once it's done, of course, that's that pilot program. It has been wildly beneficial. I don't know how many, pilot programs are just, wow. I'm blowing my mind. Things that I did not know that the program would deliver, it is delivering. And so just trying to make sure I have those metrics and things captured. January, we hope to launch another cohort and take people through the program so that they can have an A-list digital footprint too.
Awesome. So January 2026, we're looking for that to
That's
open.
correct. That's
Oh
correct.
man, Kirk, I just have had the best time with you. And I am so excited that someone like you exists in the earth so that we can get the help that we need. I got homework. You already gave me
Absolutely.
homework. I got to go back and clean up some stuff. But I'm starting today. So I just thank you so
Let's
much.
go.
I am so excited for what God has placed within you for us. And I'm
I
just
receive
looking
it.
forward to seeing where you go and how you will impact people's lives as they move into this area of being more visible with the things that they
Yeah,
have to offer for people. So thank you so much.
love it.
And I'm inviting you back. So get ready to be on the calendar.
Whenever, let's go.
But seriously, God bless you. And thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.